Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Again, hi everybody. I'm Roslan Effendi here once again. We are in this speaking session, and with me today I have Puan Zaiton Abdullah. She was a former talent manager for Shell Malaysia. So thank you very much, Puan Zaiton, for having yourself around today in this speaking session. I'm so delighted to be speaking to you, and obviously our audience today, they are looking at potential for advancing themselves into a C-Suites position in the coming future. And for this matter, we have this program of C-Suites Accelerator that will be in the intake of August 2026, and for that matter we have you to be speaking to us, and we would like to know more about over the question that I'm going to ask you. How do you deal with any of one or two live example or cases in the past in your line of area for that matters, and maybe at the end of our speaking session you can share one key takeaway that our audience can use as a guide or tips for them to be excelling the same thing in their role in the C-suites later on. So Puan Zaiton, before we start, can you just give a little bit brief about yourself and your organization that you represented earlier as in Shell Malaysia?
Okay, so thank you, Roslan, for having me. So I'm Zaiton Abdullah. I currently run my own HR practice, but in the last 30 years, I have been in multiple industries. But the longest time I spent was in the oil and gas, which was Shell. But I have also done industry like insurance, financial, and hospitality. So my role in the last role that I did in Shell was in talent management. So I lead the country talent management agenda in terms of succession planning, talent reviews, and also nationalization plan that translate into moving jobs or translating jobs for local candidates rather than filling them with expatriates over time.
Okay, very nice, Puan Zaiton. And I'm pretty sure along your line of serving as Shell Malaysia, there are many incident and challenges that is memorable with you, especially when you are successfully overcoming those, and becomes a good a lesson learned for you to take it away with you, and hopefully that it will be able to help our audience here today on how, if they are faced with the same situation, they can also overcome that with that option, or maybe some other options you may share with them later on. Now, Puan Zaiton, I got this one question that I think is very much specific to your expertise. When it comes to C-suites positions, right? What actually do boards and CEO really look into, or their thinking process, or their consideration when they are try to identify and develop their next generation of C-suites? What do they think? What is their criteria? What do they want actually? So that at least our audience here have a bit of an idea. What are the things that they need to pick up?
Okay, so I think the given part is on deliverables, right? So they are able to then run the business and grow the business. So I think from the business perspective, that is key. But in addition to that, if I were to take, let's say, the top 3 things that is usually key to the board and CEOs, it's about strategic thinking capability, because as a leader at that level, you need to be able to drive the organization. It's not just about operations, but also strategic thinking. Where do you want to grow the business? How do you expect the business to go from where you are currently in the next 5, 10, even 20 years forward? So it has to be about strategic thinking. The other thing is about building the organization for the future via capable people. So it's about people development. So it's really important. The leader must be someone who is able to develop other leaders. So they cannot be the one that do all the thinking and expect the people to do all the doing. Because if you don't have thinkers, then the organization also will not be able to grow successfully. And the third bit is around the values and the culture that they are setting in the organization. On the one hand, of course, the objective of the board is to have somebody who brings profit to the organization, but it must also be not at the consequences of values and culture of the organization. So if a leader is able to bring people together, to really rally the team behind them, then that will be a more sustainable organization that they are building, that they can ride through different challenges and different issues that may come in the near future.
Yeah, that is a very interesting point, Zaiton. And if I can recap what you have just pointed out for the consideration that CEOs and board looking into the future C-suites, there are three areas that exactly you have pointed out. And number one is thinking big, looking at the strategic levels, beyond operational, beyond 1 year budget level. 3 years down the road, how would the organization be? Is that going to be aligned with the organization vision, missions, and so forth? That is number one. And number two, you have also pointed out the most important point of being a senior leader is the ability to create another junior leaders to rise up to your level.
Yes.
And so you are keeping of building leaders from one after another, so that everybody becomes self-sufficient and they take care of each other. And if I can recap, point number three is building that culture and values going around all these two, so that these three will be a strong foundation for the organization to move forward with all this thinking of that senior leaders. Thank you very much for coming up with that. Can you just share with us one biggest challenge that you have, that moment that you felt that was really challenging me, and this is what I did at that time, on how I overcome that when you were serving as a talent manager in Shell, Malaysia?
I think it's not just something that I encountered when I was in Shell, but generally in terms of talent management, it's about giving people the confidence that in order for them to move up, they need to make space for people to move up. So sometimes some leaders may not feel comfortable developing others because they may feel threatened. So the key thing is about a leader must know that they cannot hoard the role, right? So they need to then train their people and be open to developing their people. So we actually, in Shell, we have almost like a hard rule that everybody must change role within every 4 years or so. Okay, so, and among the first thing that you do when you get into a role is start thinking who would be good so that to succeed my role, so that I can then move on or move up. Okay, so it's a mindset that we have in Shell that you need to help others grow so you can grow or you can progress. So when this is in place, it becomes natural. So and it's not just about progression, but it's about development also. And what I mean by that is, not necessarily somebody need to, a career progression doesn't have to be vertical. So people need to have the breadth of the role also. And this is where you provide mobility, for example. So rotation is a very good example. So people don't stay in the role for too long that they become complacent and they are no longer adding value. They are just going through the churning of the day. It becomes like a very mechanical. So you want people to continue to innovate, to be creative, to be motivated by the role. So you need to provide new challenges. But too frequent may be disruptive to operations. But if you do it in a structured way, every 3-4 years people do different roles, then the organization are injected with new ideas. Because having a fresh pair of eyes looking at the same process may come up with different ideas, different ways of improvement, right? So this is where you may not want to do it with everyone, because if you are a smaller organization, you may not have the opportunity to do that. But do it selectively and purposefully. So you have a target. You may do 2 or 3 per year, so that you go for critical talent, critical position. And as leaders, when you do that, you really create a very good legacy for the organization, and you're building individuals to become future leaders.
Yeah. What I like about what you have just mentioned is that the system that you develop, it's completing the whole ecosystem in the pipeline, where it is not only the work of a HR to think about succession planning, but it's actually the hiring person or the business unit manager, the leaders himself, that he has to think about. If he wants to advance further, there is no other way than he has to develop one to be replacing him.
Exactly. HR facilitate. So HR should have very strong framework. So you have a way to do it. So for example, I actually revived the talent management process when I was in Shell. It has to be, you have to provide the platform for people to do the discussion, So I actually did the same thing when I was in my later organization. So we set up talent forums, so give opportunity to spotlight certain talent, to be discussed by management, to be viewed by board members, so that and then we look at their development opportunity, what exactly needs to be done to then move them up. A succession plan is not good if it's just a tick in the box exercise. If it's just having names against position, it doesn't do anything for the individual. Then you will find that you will have people ready now, for the past 3 years is ready now, but they haven't realized the potential. So having a structure, having good framework and policy in place is where HR can add value. And then the ownership of it is on the business leader.
Yep, I really appreciate your thinking and your perspective on Zaiton, and I'm pretty sure our audience out there will be also grateful to have more conversation like this, so at least they have a far wider scope of understanding on how is that to become a senior leader, as a C-suite later on in the organization. What are the most important points that they have to consider themselves in advancing in, so that they will be a pick of choice by the CEO and the board? And before we end this conversation, Puan Zaiton, maybe you can leave one key takeaway that our audience out there, especially in a framework or perspective of a leadership development, what should they consider is a must for them to go out there and be learning and master that skill themselves?
If I look at my own interaction with talent in the past few years, perhaps it's the courage. Sometimes I find that you have very good leaders with strong technical capability, strong leadership with their own team, but may lack the courage of engaging with senior people. So they may need a bit of support, perhaps from certain stakeholders, but it's really to be courageous enough to go up against, have the integrity to do the right thing, and then fight for the right reason. So that's really important, and that's how you role model what you preach, right?
Thank you very much. I think I like that point, courage, and I can see that in our country, especially in Malaysia, which we are still not really exposed as our colleagues in Europe and America, the way they do their works, where they dare to speak up and defend their ideas, right? And this kind of courage actually build credibility and authority for a person to be sitting right up there as a C-suite position. And for someone that has been promoted in their silos as a subject matter expert, going up to that position, if they don't have that courage, so they'll be just dealing with tasks rather than people, where this is not completing their role as a senior leaders in the organization. So thank you very much for having you around in this session, Puan Zaiton. I would like to do more with you, especially in the coming intake of our C-Suites Accelerator Program in August. So I encourage you guys, please, this is 100% HRDC claimable program that is going to advance you to a C-Suites position within 3 months and 10 days. 3 months you'll be having your time with our mentors and coaches and trainers, and it's over weekend, by the way. So you senior leaders, you're not going to spend on your weekdays. Come, sign up. It's just 3 months and 3 modules. We speed you up to that and hitting the ground running. And 10 days after that, you'll be spending your time in University Wales, in St. David in Wales, in UK. So this is it's a very enriching experience, and it will be a very high value for your organization to be sponsoring you into this such a lovely program. Don't you think so, Puan Zaiton?
Yes, definitely. Yep.
Okay, so both of us would like to see you. Come, sign up. Hurry up. It's nearby now. It's June, and next is July, and August is coming in. So we hope you sign up soon, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye all.
See you there.